Welcome back to our channel, where we bring you the most in-depth analysis and dramatic breakdowns of your favorite daytime moments. Today is a thrilling day to dive into the explosive corporate and family warfare that is currently tearing Los Angeles apart. The tension has reached an absolute boiling point, and the fallout will change the landscape of the fashion industry forever. Let us delve right into the heart of the drama. The atmosphere within the sprawling, opulent executive suite of Forrester Creations had been thick with suffocating tension for weeks, but nothing could have prepared the occupants for the catastrophic detonation that was about to occur. The room, usually a sanctuary of creative vision and familial legacy, transformed instantly into a brutal psychological battlefield. The heavy mahogany desk belonging to Ridge Forrester, a symbol of absolute corporate authority and generational wealth, became the epicenter of a devastating confrontation that would forever alter the power dynamics between the Forrester and Logan dynasties. The air was practically vibrating with unsaid grievances and suppressed rage, waiting for a single spark to ignite an inferno. That spark arrived in the form of a meticulously drafted, legally binding document, carrying the weight of ultimate betrayal. Steffy Forrester Finnegan marched into the executive office with the terrifying, unyielding momentum of a predatory storm. Her posture was rigidly straight, her jaw clenched tight, and her eyes burned with a dark, triumphant fire that signaled absolute destruction. Without a single word of preliminary greeting, she slammed a thick stack of papers onto the polished surface of Ridge's desk, the sharp, percussive crack echoing through the silence of the room like a gunshot. She threw the document down right in front of Brooke Logan Forrester, ensuring that the older woman had a front-row seat to the shattering of her own delusional reality. The document was not just a piece of paper. It was the highly classified, fiercely guarded secret contract that Hope Logan Spencer had signed with the rival Logan brand. Brooke stared at the papers, her brow furrowing in initial confusion before the stark, undeniable reality of the signatures at the bottom of the page began to register in her mind. For weeks, Brooke had been fighting a relentless, exhausting crusade on her daughter's behalf. She had badgered Ridge, pleaded with Steffy, and compromised her own dignity to secure a concrete relaunch date for the Hope for the Future line. She had believed, with absolute, unwavering maternal blindness, that Hope was simply taking a temporary, emotional hiatus to heal from Steffy's condescending leadership. The realization that Hope had been actively, coldly deceiving her, using her mother's frantic advocacy as a convenient smokescreen while she secretly built her own rival empire alongside Katie and Bill Spencer, hit Brooke like a visceral, physical blow to the chest. Steffy's gaze locked onto Brooke, and the sheer magnitude of the contempt radiating from her eyes was almost palpable. It was a look of profound, generational disgust, mixed with the dark satisfaction of vindication. Steffy had always suspected that Hope's innocent, victimized facade was a carefully constructed manipulation, and now she held the undeniable, ink-stained proof in her hands. She leaned forward, her voice dropping to a lethal, venomous whisper that carried more destructive power than a scream. She began to systematically mock Brooke for her pathetic, misguided faith. Steffy ridiculed the way Brooke had marched into the office day after day, demanding respect for a daughter who was simultaneously, actively plunging a knife into the back of Forrester Creations. With surgical precision, Steffy dismantled Brooke's entire worldview. She branded Hope not just as a disgruntled employee, but as a cold-blooded, calculating traitor who possessed zero loyalty to the family that had given her everything. Steffy painted a vivid, horrifying picture of Hope sneaking around in the shadows, conspiring with Katie and the ruthless Bill Spencer, and poaching a key talent like Deke Sharp to build a rival empire from the ground up. Steffy made it agonizingly clear that Hope's actions were not born out of creative frustration, but out of a deep-seated, malicious ambition designed to humiliate the Forrester family. She weaponized Hope's defection, using it to prove that the Logan inherent nature was one of parasitic opportunism. But Steffy did not stop at destroying Hope's character. She aimed her most devastating artillery directly at Brooke's deepest insecurities. With a cruel, mocking sneer, Steffi declared Brooke a complete and utter failure as a mother. She accused Brooke of being so consumed by her own desperate need to maintain control and relevance that she had completely failed to see the monster of ambition growing within her own child. Steffi argued that Brooke's constant coddling, her endless excuses, and her toxic enabling had created a daughter who believed she was entitled to everything without having to show an ounce of loyalty or respect. The accusation sliced through Brooke's defenses, striking at the very core of her identity, leaving her gasping for air as the full weight of her maternal failure crashed down upon her. A fierce, desperate confrontation erupted as Brooke, driven by pure instinct and maternal panic, attempted to defend the indefensible. Her voice trembled with a mixture of heartbreak and rage as she lashed out at Steffi, desperately trying to shift the blame. Brooke argued passionately that it was Steffi's own tyrannical, condescending leadership that had driven Hope to this extreme. She cited the endless delays, the marginalization of the hope for the future line, and the blatant prioritization of Eric's haute couture as the catalyst for Hope's departure. Brooke desperately tried to frame Hope's secret contract not as a betrayal, but as a tragic act of self-preservation born out of a toxic work environment created entirely by Steffi's arrogance. Steffi, however, remained completely impervious to Brooke's frantic rationalizations. She absorbed the verbal assault without flinching, her expression hardening into a mask of absolute, unforgiving corporate authority. She dismissed Brooke's excuses as pathetic delusions, refusing to accept even a fraction of the blame for Hope's calculated treachery. Steffi made it abundantly clear that personal feelings and creative frustrations did not excuse corporate espionage and secret defection to a direct competitor. She stood tall, embodying the ruthless legacy of Stephanie Forrester, and prepared to deliver the final, fatal blows to both Hope's legacy and Brooke's standing within the company. With a voice that rang with absolute, terrifying finality, Steffi announced her decree. She declared that she was going to systematically and permanently erase every single trace of the Hope for the Future line from the building. It was not just a cancellation, it was a complete eradication. She promised to strip the racks, delete the digital archives, and purge the brand from the company's history as if it had never existed. Steffi vowed that Hope's name would become nothing more than a ghost within the walls of Forrester Creations, a cautionary tale, a betrayal rather than a celebrated legacy. The sheer brutality of the decision left Brooke reeling, watching years of her daughter's hard work and dedication being casually condemned to the incinerator. The devastation, however, was far from over. Steffi then pivoted to the broader, more dangerous implications of the Logan brand's rise. She announced, with a chilling calmness, that Forrester Creations was officially launching a massive, multi-million-dollar lawsuit against the Logan fashion house. The charge was the blatant, unapologetic theft of Eric Forrester's intellectual property. Katie and Bill had built the foundation of their wildly successful global debut on designs that rightfully belonged to the Forrester patriarch. Steffi made it clear that she was not just going to fire a warning shot. She was going to unleash an army of corporate lawyers to bankrupt the Logan brand, seize their assets, and publicly humiliate them on a global scale. It was a declaration of total, unmitigated corporate warfare. Throughout this entire, explosive ordeal, Ridge Forrester remained paralyzed behind his desk, trapped in the agonizing crossfire of the two women he loved most. The revelation of Hope's secret contract had hit him with the force of a freight train, shattering his own misguided belief that he could somehow broker a peace between his wife and his daughter. He watched, suffocated by guilt and helplessness, as Steffi ruthlessly dismantled Brooke's ego and declared war on her family. Ridge realized, with a sickening drop in his stomach, that his previous decisions, choosing Steffi as co-CEO, firing Will Spencer, and ignoring Carter's prophetic warnings, had directly paved the way for this catastrophic implosion. He was the patriarch. Yet he was entirely powerless to stop the bloodshed unfolding in his own office. For Brooke, the most crushing, soul-destroying moment of the confrontation came when she turned her desperate, tear-filled eyes toward Ridge, silently begging him to intervene, to soften Steffy's blows, or to offer even a shred of defense. But Ridge remained silent, his eyes downcast, his posture screaming of defeat and reluctant agreement with his daughter's corporate logic. In that suffocating, agonizing silence, a profound and terrifying realization washed over Brooke. She saw the shifting dynamics of the room with crystal clarity. The Forrester fortress had closed its gates, and she was standing on the outside. Brooke realized that she had completely and irrevocably lost her final say in her husband's family company. The influence she had wielded for decades, the power she had fought so bitterly to maintain, had evaporated into thin air. Steffy was not just the co-CEO in name. She was the absolute, undisputed ruler of Forrester Creations, and Ridge was willing to let her wield the executioner's axe. Brooke was no longer a respected matriarch or a valued advisor. She was an isolated, powerless Logan trapped behind enemy lines, forced to watch as her daughter was branded a traitor and her sister was targeted for financial ruin. The silence that followed Steffy's declarations was heavy, toxic, and permanent. The contract lying on the desk was no longer just a piece of paper. It was a monument to the death of trust and the birth of a new, vicious era of rivalry. The lines had been drawn in permanent marker, separating the Spencer-Logan alliance from the Forrester dynasty. Hope's ambition, Steffy's ruthlessness, and Brooke's blindness had collided in a spectacular tragedy that would leave no survivors unscathed. The battle lines were set, the legal briefs were being drafted, and the fashion world was about to witness a war of unprecedented brutality. Brooke stood in the center of the wreckage, her heart shattered, her power stripped, knowing that the family she had tried so desperately to hold together was now irreparable.